Hey everyone, today's conversation is going to be about LGBTQ, especially trans inclusion in healthcare, in clinical research, in promotional compliance. So if you are in medical affairs, if you are a pharmacist trying to understand what trans care, what trans inclusion, what LGBTQ inclusion looks like, you probably care about today's discussion. Our guest today is a queer pharmacist involved in healthcare advocacy. You can find him on Twitter at Dr. O'Slay, which I think is such a badass name right now. Dr. O'Slay on Twitter, or you can reach him on by email at drken.o'shea@gmail.com. I do want to emphasize this is the DarshanTalks live stream. I'm your host, Darshan Kulkarni. Our guest today is Ken O'Shea, and he likes to be referred to as Dr. Ken. Is that fair?
Yes.
Very, very cool. I have to emphasize, I'm an attorney, but I'm not your attorney. We're both pharmacists. We're not your pharmacist. So we're not giving you either legal or clinical advice. I advise companies with FDA-regulated products. Ken advises patients regarding FDA-regulated products. So these are considerations and they don't necessarily reflect the opinions of the host, the guest, our employers, our clients, or people we consult with. If you like what you hear, please leave a comment, please subscribe, please share. If you like, you can please ask our guests questions. You can always find me on Twitter at DarshanTalks, or just go to my website at DarshanTalks.com. Ken, good to have you. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I have to start by talking about pronouns and talking about what that means. And so first of all, could you talk a little bit about what are preferred pronouns? Because that comes up a lot when you're talking to trans individuals. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So there's obviously the pronouns that you're born with. I represented female when I came out, so I was saddled with the she, her, and everything that comes with that. But when trans people start transitioning, et cetera, we introduce ourselves to the world as our new person, who we are. And so our pronouns change most of the time. And there's a lot of different pronouns. So I thought I was non-binary for a little bit. So my pronouns at that time were they, them, because it's a nice, just neutral way to refer to somebody. That's somebody's gender. And then as I realized, oh wait, no, I'm a dude. I had to be like, hey, allow me to reintroduce myself. Cue Jay-Z. But then, so I had to let everybody know my new pronouns again. And some people can have two sets of pronouns. Some people who are like non-binary can lead more towards masculine, so they'll use he, they, or vice versa, she, they. But it's never assume what you're gonna see is what the pronouns are gonna match. Sometimes, just ask. It's real easy. Just, if you ever need to know, just ask.
Okay, so let's start from the beginnings, though. So people talk about pronouns, but what I always sort of, when I talk to people, they seem to get this misconception. Is it fair to say that just because you use he, she pronouns, he, they pronouns, or he, him pronouns, you are automatically gay, or you're automatically attracted to same-sex individuals or different sex individuals? How do you address that question that comes up often?
So you've always got to. There's a lot to unpack. A lot with gender and sexual orientation. So like a lot of things that we got to do when I teach my class, actually, over at Hampton, I teach the LGBT health disparities class. So one of the first things I've got to address is the fact that just because someone's trans doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be gay. Like gender and what you're attracted to, like completely different things. Like you gotta that's the first thing you gotta break down. Like gender is who I am, and then my orientation is just what I like. So like they're different. So you've got to break that down to the basic level sometimes, and explain that first. And then you got to go into not all trans people are gay. Not all gay people are trans. Like there's a Venn diagram, sure, but like two different things.
Right. And then we have to add on the complication of gender versus presentation.
Yes. Which like even okay, so when I was gender neutral, I would have super feminine looking days where I would be like, I'm a bad bitch. And then other days where I'd be super masculine and have like basketball shorts and like bind my titties all the way down and I'd be like, yes, I'm a bad bitch, but a guy. Like, you know, like, but I was always gender neutral. So just from how people present doesn't necessarily represent what they are. Like I still dress very feminine. Like I've got my little Boy George earring set going on. All right, I put on a little bit of a eyeshadow today. You know, my nails are done. I'm still a dude. I'm just really vain.
So let's sort of break it down for people. There are 3 different spectrums you have to consider. The first being gender, the second being presentation, and the third being orientation. So gender, obviously, go ahead.
There is a beautiful diagram called the genderbread person.
Yep.
And it's delightful. And I think it just totally, I pass it out in my class whenever I teach the class. It's just the whole encompassing, like, it's literally exactly what we're talking about. It's great.
Or have you seen the gender unicorn?
I have not seen the gender unicorn.
Okay, so I'm gonna demonstrate that to you and to people in a few seconds. I'm trying to bring that up as we speak. Share screen. Give me a second, not that one. Sorry. There we go. Wow. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's the similar concept to the genderbread person.
Yes. So the idea being you can have a gender identity, you can have gender expression, and then who you're actually physically attracted to. And I forgot the 4th one, which is sex assigned at birth. Yeah. And then there's emotionally attracted to. So we do actually split up between physically attracted versus emotionally attracted. So some people are going to say, look, I've always grown up with male and female. This is way more complicated than it needs to be. Why am I getting involved in all this? Why can't you just be who you were? How do you respond to that?
Because I've had to live with this now. So like, nah, I've lived with this enough. Like, I'm going to be me. And like, maybe we didn't have all these things back then because y'all were not cool about it. And now we're done with y'all not being cool about it. And so we're going to make some changes. Like, people learn as time goes on. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to learn and get better. That's like the entire point of existing. So it baffles my mind when people are like, oh, this is how it was 50 years ago. Like, we learned, my guy. Like, we have computers now.
Right.
Get with the times. So I come from a very very religious background. I grew up very Catholic. So my guy, like, if I could unpack all of that, all of that unlearning, you can do a little bit. Like, you just have to know that I exist. I had to do the existing part. Like, that was the hard part. So
could you talk to us a little bit about that journey of trying to unpack your background, trying to understand how what you felt was not at that point what you saw, and is not the messages you were getting to be who other people saw, and how you sort of had to come out and sort of readjust and have the world readjust to see you in the way that you wanted to be seen?
So I think my internalized stuff was a lot worse than anything that society's thrown at me so far. Knock on some wood. Like in my personal life, because like we knew I wasn't quite straight from from the jump. Like when I was 4, again, I grew up in the Catholic Church, so I wanted to be the Pope. I thought I could grow up and be the Pope. Then I found out I couldn't do that, so I was like, I'm gonna grow up and be Derek Jeter then.
Cool.
So there was just like a steady progression. Like my mom looks back and tells stories. She was like, "Yeah, you taught yourself how to pee standing up when you were 3," and I was like, "Oh," and none of y'all had a clue.
It was a different time.
And, like maybe so, but I had like a whole like I can't be gay or I can't be a dude. Like I can't just add on more stuff. That's too much. Like no, I'm getting greedy at this point. I'm already gay, like bisexual. Like I can't have everything. So I kind of went on a very expensive gender quest in which I got like I got a boob job. I went and got like big bimbo boobs because I was doubling down on like I'm not trans. It's been a year and I'm like I need them off. I need them off right now. I cannot do this. I need them gone. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot mentally, but like yeah, coming out to my family was so easy. Like I was blessed. I was blessed in this because I know it's not easy for everyone. Like I was like standing in like the doorway to my dad's study, like sobbing, just like, "Will you still love me if I'm a guy?" And literally, he was like, "I'm your friend on Facebook." Like nothing. Yes. And just like kept doing his schoolwork, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
What did "I'm your friend on Facebook" mean to you?
Because I very loudly had posted about being a trans guy on Facebook before I came out and told my dad.
I mean, hell of a way to keep a secret, but
Yeah, well, he never checks it. Like, I didn't know.
was it more difficult with your mom?
Oh no. My mom bought me like the other day she went out and bought me boxers with eggplants because she was like, I wanted you to think about a dick. Thanks, Mom.
So supportive parents were very important. Did you find it difficult? Well, you've always identified, you said, as bisexual. Is that correct?
Oh God, yeah.
Well, technically speaking, though, one might argue even pansexual.
Yeah. If you're a cool person,
You're cool with that.
That's my that's not my view on that. But like yeah, even I think I saw so my queer origin story is my mom took me to Lilith Fair.
Please tell me that was a radioactive spider.
I wish. No, it was Missy Elliott in concert. That's what triggered my gay alarm. I was like, it was preschool because my preschool teacher was at the concert, which I thought was great.
Thanks for making me feel really old when Missy Elliott is your preschool story. But going on.
You know, but yeah, so that's when I knew I didn't only like boys. I was like, oh, she's so great. And then I grew up and like kept watching like her music videos. And then when I was old enough to be like, oh, yeah.
Okay. So today was going to be about LGBTQ sort of definitions, if you will. So even though this is a wonderful opportunity to explore gender, which is great, and I'm fascinated by it, I think today is just a broader conversation. So I'm going to explore a couple other pieces. The terms I've seen thrown around, and we've thrown two of them around. One's bisexual, one is pansexual. I've heard the term omnisexual. I've heard gynosexual, androsexual. What does all that mean? Why do we have this quote unquote alphabet soup?
So when you grow up, like, and there's especially given the gross negligence of the government in the 80s and 90s that led to the death of an entire generation of queer people, we in this generation growing up we don't know what we're doing. We have no guidance. So like a lot of us had no place and had no idea who we were growing up. So now that there are labels and like other people in these labels that understand us and like can help us understand us, that's why we give me that. Yes. Give me that, please. Yes. Like, oh, there's people who know what I am. Give me that. Yes. Thank you. And like, it gets a lot of people have different meanings for different things. So definition, since there was no, overarching guidance on the younger generations, there's a lot of like discourse in the community on different labels and stuff, but that happens with any community, honestly. But so we're still figuring out all of the alphabet. We're still hammering those details out, but
But it's not like there's a quarterly meeting where you sit down and go, these are the
if only we can have the giant convention of the gays. Like, please, can we get our stuff together?
I want to set that up, the giant convention of the gays.
Yes.
It would be fabulous.
You and me should start it. We should do this.
The delegate from Omaha would like to put forth an amendment.
We probably get more done than the U.S. government, honestly.
I don't know. We just have more terms thrown in. Do you really want more terms? And would we really take away other terms?
Oh yeah. Like everyone, no one wins.
So here's you've used the term queer. Mm-hmm. Now, why do we have the term queer if the term gay exists? What does that mean?
So, queer is one of those words that I mentioned that has a lot of discourse in the community.
The weekly meetings.
In the meetings. So queer, as most people know, was an extremely derogatory term back in the 80s, 70s, all of that. I'm of the mindset that if you take a word back, then they can't use it to hurt you. All about reclamation. So I use queer as just because now, since it was used so broadly in a derogatory way towards anybody in the rainbow spectrum, it now just kind of means the overarching rainbow that is everything in the gay community. So it's a lot easier to just be like, I'm queer. And then if somebody wants to follow up on details, I'll be like, yeah, I'm pansexual, polyamorous, and trans. Like, there you go. There's here. But like on first meeting, just like, yeah, I'm queer. And they can be like, yeah, you can is is kind of just like the easiest way to go. Because then once you know that person's cool with queer, then you can break it down into all the different things that, would otherwise not be great for everybody to know. Because if I say I'm queer and you seem off-put, I'm not giving you any more details. Not a safe space.
So that's kind of interesting, right? Because there's been a lot of discussion in the community about who gets to be part of the flag. And there's been discussion of everything from should it end at L, B, and G? Should T even be part of it? Then there's been a discussion of should I and A be part of it? What does A stand for?
So A is not for ally. I love you guys, but I'm sorry. It is for asexual or aromantic, basically anywhere around the ACE spectrum there. Because of course, within ACE, there's also two different branches, and then you got to go through. Yes, so we've got aromantic would be you're not romantically interested in people, and then asexual is not physically into anything. Sometimes go hand in hand, not always, but yes. So for the cute little unicorn there.
So we now know what A means, which means you may be either physically or romantically attracted to individuals, but you may not be the other one. You may not, if you're physically attracted, you may not be romantically attracted. If you are romantically attracted, you may not be physically attracted, or neither. You may not either be physically or romantically attracted to individuals, in which case we used to call that a loner. At this point,
we've grown so much. we live and we learn and we grow.
There we go. And you threw out another term. You threw out the term. If you don't get people who understand the term queer, you're not going to get into the more detailed aspects of it. And it reminded me a little bit of, like, I'm trying to launch a couple of businesses right now. And as part of that, what I'm required to do as the thought process, as the thought exercise, is go through the elevator pitch, which is your 30 seconds, get someone interested.
Yep.
And then there's the business plan. And what you're telling me is queer is the elevator pitch.
Yes.
And if someone's still interested, you give them the business plan, which is the polyamorous, did you say polysexual? I forget the term you used.
Pansexual, polyamorous, transgender.
Right. Is there a polysexual?
So, yes, I have it. I've only seen it referred to on like Reddit or like deep threads, where you're not attracted to, so you're attracted to more than two, but less than all.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
So what would that even look like?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Because we got to raise it at the meeting.
Yeah, we do. Like, I think it means like men, women, and then like feminine appearing non-binary or masculine appearing non-binary, I think is I don't really know. Like I said, we need to talk about it in the committee meetings.
The next question is, when you threw queer out there, then you erased polyamorous. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the queer spectrum?
It's not really, but it's hard to find a polyamorous relationship that doesn't have some element of queer to it.
Okay.
Just being in the fact that it's more than the two gender, like there's an unequal balance, if you would.
Right.
So somebody in that's got to be a little bit queer. So I just kind of tend to loop it in.
So you're putting the square peg into the round hole.
I am, yes.
I'm so not touching that. I said it and I regretted it as soon as I said it. But okay, so we've now reached a situation where we're talking about the idea of polyamory. We've discussed the, for lack of a better term, the gender unicorn. Is there a polyamory unicorn who can explain this to us as well? Because there are so many different variants of that. And why would it matter?
I'm new to ethical, like practicing polyamory. But there are so many different types of polyamory out there. And we were like, it's so much. I'm a newcomer to the actual practicing. Because like it's a hard thing to talk about with people a lot of the times, like, hey, I want more than one partner. Like that's not really a great way to start a lot of relationships. So this is like the first time I've ever like been able to actually experience it. So more to come on that. I'm still learning about myself.
There you go. So let's sort of bring it back to the goal of this conversation. Why does any of this matter let's address the topic that you literally give a course on. We've got maybe 3 minutes, so I assume you can do your 13-week course in about 3 minutes, right? So what is health equity and why does it matter in this context?
Okay, health equity. There is such a huge, you gotta get the knuckle crack because I've dedicated my life to this. There is such a huge disconnect between healthcare, accessibility, affordability, and quality between so many different levels. You got the socioeconomic, you've got simple racial equity is non-existent in our country, our healthcare. stuff. And then there's base gender equity issues. And then you've got gender, like there's a disconnect there. So God forbid you're a Black trans woman who needs healthcare. It's not going to be easily accessible in America. Whereas if, of course, you're a cis white guy, you're going to get the best healthcare. But like, come on in, whatever. So that's been my entire life in healthcare. Pretty much is first working on the racial equity was my entry points into healthcare advocacy, and then I kind of used that to get into, wow, when we picture trans people, we picture like a white trans person, but Black trans women are the ones that need the help the most with getting healthcare access. So that's been my rallying call, pretty much.
So there's been this rallying call, as you've put it, for Black trans women, as you have sort of tried to advocate for. Could you talk a little bit about how many people are actually affected by, whether you're talking about the overall umbrella of queer, the smaller umbrella or the sub-umbrella of pansexual, and the even smaller umbrella of trans individuals, and how many people are affected, and why does it still matter?
So it's not great. I don't have like any actual numbers and stuff because there's not a lot of public research goes into.
Also, because I didn't give you any time to prepare for that part of the question.
I mean, that's fair. But back when I was working in healthcare, or not in healthcare, in health insurance, in the health disparities department. And for every like 5 other like outreach things, there was maybe 1 mention of queer, or
right.
It's not great out there and it affects a larger percentage of the community than people think of, because people don't really see trans people because a lot of people can't imagine the fact that what they see isn't what people were born as. So like you could be passing by trans people every day and you wouldn't know because it's not really your business. But so the number of queer, and same with queer, I wear it on a freaking like picket sign that I'm queer, but a lot of people hide it a lot better than I do. Like, so it affects so many more people than you could even be aware of. Like, getting access to even proper mental health is harder for queer people because we're supposed to talk about our inside thoughts, like, and first you got to find out a place that's safe for that.
Yeah.
If you don't have at the very base level, if you don't have a queer friendly doctor, everything tanks from there because you can't address more than half of your health need concerns. And so like starting even at that base level, you got to even imagine like how many people aren't getting the help that they need.
So how do you find a queer-friendly doctor?
There are actually databases now.
Okay.
A lot of local, like whatever state you're in, their Pride chapter will normally have a database. In Virginia, we've got the LGBT Life Center, which has lists of queer-friendly doctors. I've got a Planned Parenthood right down the street that I know is very queer-friendly, and then they've got a subgroup of queer-friendly doctors that they know about that they can refer you to. Is networking. A lot of being gay is trying to find your safety net.
Sounds like finding a job. It's all about finding your network that you fit into.
Yeah, exactly. That's.
I mean, so far we've established that you need a elevator pitch, you need a business plan, and now you need a network.
Being gay is a whole second full-time job, you guys. Welcome.
So we can keep going, but I want to ask one question to tie it in for the audience, because we tried to get some of the terms together, but and hopefully you'll be kind enough to come back on.
Oh, God, yeah.
More. but maybe what I'd like to discuss a little bit before we go out is there have been now a lot more queer representation on what people would argue is probably the worst section of advertising, which is pharma ads. I happen to make a living off of it, so I don't think it's the worst section at all. However, people would say that is a not something that they encourage, because their argument is that it raises the cost of drugs. Whole different discussion. My question for you, do you believe that there is more representation in these ads? And does that in any way, is that the only way to sort of give a voice to a marginalized community?
I have a lot of thoughts. I'm gonna keep some of them quiet because I don't believe in straight to consumer advertising for medications, because a lot of times consumers aren't smart. But for the queer representation in healthcare ads and drug ads, I have a very simple and base question.
Okay.
If you're going to use my people in your advertising, then possibly the inside label to my testosterone gel might have some data on trans care. If you're going to advertise to queer patients, adjust your dosing recommendations, do some studies, because when I open my testosterone gel that I'm using for my gender affirming therapy, there is only biological hormone replacement therapy specifics for cis men. So
right.
If we're going to advertise to these patients, know how to treat these patients. And there we go.
I think that's a really, really interesting piece. And I'm going to raise two things, and then we'll kind of call it, because there's so much more we could do. I seem to have touched a nerve, which is a beautiful nerve to touch, because I think it's a conversation. But you use the term cis, and for those people who aren't aware, cis is what most people perceive as each other, which is people who don't identify or don't present as something other than the gender they were born. So a person who's born a woman continues to present as a woman, continues to identify as a woman, is a cis individual, while a woman who's born as a woman now believes is a man would be considered to be a trans individual. So I don't quite know if you're considered to be if you're considered to be trans if you're non-binary. I don't quite know.
Yes, so you're no longer, so like in chemistry, cis and trans is just a different, yes. So if you're not what you were born as, you're trans. That was actually a thing I had to get over in myself, and because like back before, when I thought I was non-binary, I was like, I'm just trying to cop a label that I don't quite belong to. No, babes, you belong. Okay. If you're born a woman and now you're non-binary, you're trans. But I'm not. A lot of people labels as a personal thing, so like not forcing anybody to take a label.
Yeah.
So you belong if you want that label.
Fair enough. And we will just bring you back to have more conversations, because I think we need to discuss the labeling component. I'm going to drop a little bit of info at you, and I'd be curious as a pharmacist what you think about this. Yes. And I'm a pharmacist as well, so we're allowed to disagree. So feel free to tell me, Darshan, you're just plain wrong, and that's okay. So you mentioned this idea that that pharma should probably change their labels if you're going to, as you said, include trans individuals in the label. Maybe include if you're going to include trans individuals in your advertisement, include them in the labeling. And I think that that's overall not a bad goal to have. However, my experience is that the company wants to come to market as soon as possible. So they will do the first studies they can, get onto the market as quickly as they can, and then do follow-up studies if necessary. Yeah, my experience then is, go ahead.
See, that's my other fear, is that they're going to do studies and re-release the same medication under a new brand name for trans people.
Exactly right. So, but that wouldn't work either. So how do you, in that case, address those questions because those studies cost money.
Yeah.
And if those studies cost money, you're the one who pointed out the importance of accessibility, affordability, and quality. If we do those studies, it potentially decreases affordability by definition because those costs have to be passed on.
See, and this is where I say we just take a torch to the entire American healthcare system and start over. Because then nothing will matter.
It's just a little aggressive. I mean, I'm not sure. It's a little anarchic. So that might be part of the new queer business plan.
No one reflects these views.
I want to put that in.
No one.
Fair enough. So we're going to call it, but this was wonderful having you on, Dr. O'Shea. And before we go, I have two questions for you.
Yes.
The first question, how can people reach you?
Oh, so at Dr.
No.
Nope, that is dr.ken.o'shea@gmail. That's my email. I only use it for pharmacy stuff. So if you've got pharmacy questions, go ahead and hit me up. And then my Twitter is right there. Yes, that was what I was trying to say at first, and I messed up. So that Dr. O'Slay with underscores in between and then 3 Ys. It's great. It's a little fun play on my name.
I do also want to emphasize that while Dr. O'Slay, as you put it, has been very, very kind to come onto my live stream, he is actually going to be on another podcast very soon. Do you remember which one?
It is called Let's Pharmanize, and it's part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Shout out. It's actually going to be part of a 4-part special that's going to be released late June. So I will be sure I'll be blasting it because I'm vain. I already said this before. Listen to me, guys. Listen to me talk. I'm so great. Yeah, that's going to be me all of July.
Well, feel free to blast this one out. So we would appreciate it.
Don't worry.
And we will talk about the slugworm behind you later on. But yeah, you didn't catch that, did you?
I did not.
Just look behind you. But yeah, so we will discuss that next time. And one last question: what would your parting words be?
Hey, if you're a pharmacist, be nice to your patients. I appreciate you guys. I know metrics are hard. You guys are great. Be nice to your patients. That's all I really have. That's my whole healthcare thing, is just be nice to people. So
you work in retail. That gets hard sometimes.
I know. I had to take a break. I took a 3-month break from retail pharmacy and then realized I could not be there anymore. So I'm a masochist, apparently. I don't understand.
We got to talk about that, because that's a whole other life as a pharmacist post-COVID or during COVID, or I don't know where we are right now with COVID.
I have my pizza t-shirt every single time I have a pharmacy interview because #pizza is not working.
Yep.
Just a little also plug there.
Yep. I haven't had Blair on. I probably should at some point try to get her on. So that'd be awesome.
Okay. She's great.
Very, very cool. Thank you again.
Of course. Have a great day, guys.